Hey everybody, it's Aldo Gandhi, and I just want to let you know really quickly that our swag shop is reopened. DeepDishTees.com is where you go, and that's tees with T-E-E-S. Clever name, guys. They're the new home of our merchandise. You can get t-shirts, you can get caps, you can get coffee mugs, you can get hoodies, you can get all sorts of good stuff, and you'll help out the bar room with the purchase. So head over to DeepDishTees.com.
This is Liam Hendriks, and you're watching Crosstown Crosstalk on the Barroom Network.
Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Every summer in Chicago, the sunshine spotlights the city's spectacular skyline. Its luxurious lakeshore, marvelous monuments, and the over 200 neighborhoods in the city. And it also brings to light two of the greatest sports franchises in the world. On the north side, it's the Cubs. On the south side, it's the White Sox. This is Crosstown Crosstalk.
Hello, and welcome to episode number 33 of Crosstown Crosstalk, presented by the Barroom Network. My name is Vinnie Parise.
And I'm Joey Parise.
And Joseph, welcome back to the show, eh?
I know, it's been far too long. I miss it. I miss having to say my own name at the beginning.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, Joey's been on a little bit of a Crosstown Crosstalk hiatus due to greener pastures, but he's back, and we're going to see how long we can keep it rolling with JP on Crosstown. Yeah. But, I mean, what a time it's been, huh? Baseball, no baseball. I mean, what are your thoughts on all that?
I know, it's been crazy, but I just want to say before anything that when in my absence, you've done an incredible job. You've had Jake Von Esch. You had some incredible people from Fansided. You interviewed Gavin Sheets, which was probably a highlight for you. And I just couldn't be any more proud of you, the way you've handled this show solo for the past few weeks.
I very much appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, but like all good things, you know, they could be better. And that's where I come in.
Trying to do better.
There you go. There you go. Shout out Peter Parker.
Yep. So like I asked before, what are your thoughts on the whole lockout thing? I mean, it's tough the way that it's gone since December 1st.
It sucks. And I was actually just thinking the other day, I want to go to a White Sox game. And the fact that might not be a reality come April or late March, it sucks. It really does suck, especially because we don't have an answer. Like if you told me, okay, the season's going to start in July, okay, I just got to wait till July. But the fact that we don't know is the thing that's infuriating the most. So, I mean, you know, like everything that's happened the past 2 years, we'll live through it, and we'll just be better afterwards.
I couldn't agree with you more. And they are meeting today, Thursday, doing economic related things for the collective bargaining agreement. The MLB and MLBPA are together. So hopefully that's the beginning of something great, and they are able to figure this thing out, because we're all better when there's baseball. Summer's more fun. There's more things to do in the summer. There's more fun to be had. So hopefully they're able to figure it out. My pal Robert Murray wasn't very optimistic a couple weeks ago, but I think having a meeting today and getting this thing underway, it's a good sign. And of course, we have a very special guest on this show. It's Liam Hendriks, closer of the Chicago White Sox. It's a career highlight of mine to be able to interview him. And he was talking as if he's prepping to be ready for spring training by the proper start date. I mean, I know that's probably just standard protocol. Everybody's probably doing it. But hey, it's better than everybody sitting at home doing nothing.
Yeah, and you don't want to be, exactly. You don't want to be sitting home doing nothing because, okay, let's say they come to an agreement. You need to be ready. So you need to prepare as if it's going to happen. So,
absolutely. Well, I think we've taken up enough people's time talking about a bunch of nonsense, and I'm just so excited for everyone to hear this. And of course, I'm talking about our interview with Liam Hendriks. I hope everybody enjoys. And we are now in the interview portion of today's show, where we have an absolute superstar of the Chicago White Sox, closer Liam Hendriks. Liam, how are you?
I'm doing well, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, of course. It's been a long time since we've had some baseball, and we're looking forward to the season, and we couldn't think of a better person to have on our show than you right now.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Probably our biggest guest. Have mind you. Yeah.
Absolutely our biggest
By
guest,
far.
without a doubt.
I don't know.
So,
I think Gavin Sheets has got me. He's a little bit bigger, a little bit taller than me. So
that's funny, actually. Gavin was a great time. He was a good person to have on, but absolutely, it's good to have our favorite teams' players on our show. But I got to ask you, you were with the Oakland A's right before coming to the Chicago White Sox, and you actually beat them in the postseason, and you were a very big part of that A's team that had so much success. What made you come to the team that you beat in that offseason? What made you choose the Chicago White Sox?
Well, they were on the board from the very get-go. I mean, you look at what they've got with the talent they've got, and also the biggest thing for me was the contention window. Like, everyone's there for multiple years. It's not as if it's just we had a couple guys for the first year, and then it was like, okay, well, hopefully piece it together for years 2 and 3. No, it was everyone was there for the next 3, 4, 5 years. And that was one thing that really resonated with me and my wife and I, and we really appreciated the fact of being able to live in a city. We'd always enjoyed coming to Chicago when I played in the Central, and also just being in the Central. The travel's a lot easier. It's a lot nicer, shorter flights, and it's that was a couple of the big things for us. But also we had some guys in the team that we knew pretty well, and Lucas Giolito. He helped us like scout out some things around a little bit, and then put in the good word as well. And James McCann was one of the other guys we had reached out to about how the team was, and have heard nothing but glowing reports.
Yeah, what's that reception been like from some of the fans in Chicago? Because it seems like you've become a fan favorite rather quickly. At least you are for Vinny and I.
Yeah, it helps when you get embraced. I think the group of fans right next to the bullpen, they were fantastic. They were always loud. They were always appreciative. They always kind of cheered as much as possibly they could. And then every time when I was walking out, I'd give them a little bit of a wave, and that seemed to resonate a little bit as well. But yeah, I think the South Side fits with my personality, and that's something that's a little bit. You like to have a joke, you like to have fun, but also you need to be serious, and you go a little psychopathic at times as well, which fits me pretty well.
Absolutely, we honestly love it. I'm a huge fan. We've actually been standing over there next to the bullpen watching you guys warm up a bunch of times, and it's always a great time. One of the things that was surprising about the Chicago White Sox this season was Tony LaRussa coming back. And after 10 years of not managing a baseball game, the last time he was in the World Series in 2011. Then he comes back to this young, vibrant White Sox team. From your point of view, what was it like to play for him?
Oh, Tony was great. Obviously, yeah, you said 10 years away from managing, but in saying that, he was within the game still. Like, he had some executive roles with MLB and the Diamondbacks, and he was always around. So it wasn't as if he was like divulged of baseball or anything like that, but that was big. He was one of the main reasons, and another one that I really liked the White Sox, because obviously he was one of the inventors of the closer role, and that was something that was obviously near and dear to my heart, the way I go out there and do things. But yeah, it was pretty cool. And then I've worked actually with his animal rescue in the Bay Area for about 5 or 6 years now. So it's I've known him for a little bit through that, and then yeah, obviously you've got a living legend sitting in the box managing the games, and that's something that not every team has, and that's something that we definitely took advantage of. And I mean, he resonated. He was fantastic throughout the entire clubhouse. Like, there wasn't anybody in that club, or there was very few guys in that clubhouse that didn't like him, that didn't get along with him. And a lot of the guys, he dealt with personalities, he dealt with everything, and that was fantastic to see.
Very cool, very cool. Yeah, we've heard from players, great things about Tony, so that's cool hearing it from you as well. I want to ask you about your relationship with a guy who came in last year, Craig Kimbrell. I want to know about your and his relationship, and what was that like having him join you guys last year?
Oh, it's fantastic from my point of view, because there's always so much to learn, especially from a guy of that caliber. Obviously, what he was able to do in Boston, in Atlanta, in San Diego, and then in Chicago. I mean, he's bounced around with a multitude of different teams. He's had different coaches, but he's always been able to find that level of success, and that's something that you just can't stumble upon very often. And that's something that I was able to kind of pick his brain about certain things, about situations, about his preparation, the way he comes into a game, what he does when he's struggling a little bit, making those adjustments. And it was fascinating being able to learn from him. And yeah, he was fantastic, not only as a player on the field, but also just his personality off the field was great. I mean, we split a locker. We ended up starting to do some little Lego demonstration things together. So we had that going. But yeah, he was fantastic. I've known him for a little bit. My wife is close with his wife, and it's something that was cool. We already knew them a little bit before coming in as well, which made it a little bit easier for him and me as well.
Oh, I'm sure. That's awesome. Yeah.
And you there was obviously Craig Kimbrell, who we just talked about, and then of course Michael Kopech. And then you come up with this little term that caught fire, and it was on T-shirts, and everyone was saying, of course, I'm referring to the Ponytail Gang. Michael Kopech is amazing. You all got the great hair. Me and Joey are well, I'm jealous. Joey's not. He's got.
I know. I feel underprepared. I could have easily threw it up in a ponytail. And...
Yeah, you could have joined the Ponytail Gang.
You decided to put a terrible hat on instead with the
Bruins. We're gonna get to that. Don't worry.
Yeah,
we're gonna get to that.
We're gonna get to that. We know all about that. But how did you come up with the Ponytail Gang, and what was it like to participate in such a great trio of relievers? Because those two guys and yourself, of course, are awesome.
Yeah, it just kind of happened in the moment. I mean, I was sitting there doing an interview, and I'm like, yeah, we win an extra guy who has a little bit of a longer haircut. We're like a Ponytail Gang. And then I kind of sat and I'm like, no, we need some shirts of that. And then all of a sudden, 3 days later, I had shirts in my locker. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, it's something that Michael Kopech is one of the more talented people I've ever been around. Purely on the field, like, he is unbelievable, and he's a great person off the field, which is something that I didn't know what to expect with him. Obviously, you'd seen social media stuff preluding when he was at Boston, stuff like that. But no, he's nothing like I expected. And it was awesome. Like, he's he's into himself a little bit, like, in the fact that he's just quiet. He's a little shyer than your average, what I expected. But no, that guy is supremely talented. And he's one of those guys that's just, the sky's the limit. There's no telling how far he can go in this game. And he doesn't even realize how talented he is, which is the wildest part.
Yeah, that's honestly incredible. You kind of briefly mentioned Craig Kimbrell's like warm-up routines and all that, but I want to ask about your warm-up routine because, you know, I've watched you very closely. Vinny mentioned we sit in those bleachers all the time. We're watching the bullpen. I notice you do in the bullpen before you're about to come into a game. You kind of got this thing you do where you walk from the mound to the home plate. I want to know about this zone you get into and what's that like?
Yeah, so obviously going into a role, I'm one of the most stressful positions in baseball, and it's you coming in, and if you don't do your job, you end up losing, and then all of a sudden everyone yells at you and you get a bunch of social media death threats. So the deal with that, I read about this thing. It's just a breathing exercise. It's meant to just kind of relax, relieve stress a little bit. So I started doing this thing where I'd breathe in through my nose, hold it there, and then breathe out. And then I just started doing that. I'm like, okay, how can I incorporate this into making sure that it's focused on what I needed to focus on? So I stood on the mound, I'd do that, and then I'd stand on home plate, then I'd look down to the plate, and I'd just sit there and do the same breathing things. The first few times with eyes closed, then eyes open towards the plate, and then I'd walk the plate just to realize how close that actually is. Because there's certain times, certain fields especially, that you feel like you're 150 feet away, and no matter what you throw, they're sitting on it, they're ready for it. And then being able to walk that little distance is just, it realizes how close everything is to you and how much, how quality the hitter has to be to do anything on you. And that just kind of reiterates the fact of, like, it doesn't matter who's at the plate. I can get them out no matter what. And that's something I do. And then I walk to the home plate, stand there a little bit, and then walk back with an intense scowl on my face while doing the breathing thing and just kind of getting into that routine of doing things. But that's the biggest thing, is just having a routine of the way you do things, whether it be a throwing program, whether it be the warm-up pitches you have, because that means you trick yourself into every single time you're on the mound, knowing and believing that you are ready to pitch in that game.
Yeah, that was a perfect answer, because Vin, how many times we'd be in the 8th inning, you know, I'm not even watching the game, I'm just watching you do this warm-up routine, and I say to Vinny, because it's just so intriguing to me. So honestly, I'm so happy I got that explanation. I can't wait to see you do it again.
Oh yeah, it'll be every day. Sometimes it's a little hard to do depending on how many relievers are going through that day, because I try not to do it while there's someone there. I want it to be a little bit more of a quiet solitude time, but also in saying that, I don't want to step in anybody's way. Like, if somebody's having to warm up, look, they've got a job to do. I'm not going to be sitting there impeding them because I have something to do. No, it's we're a family out there, and we pick each other up and we support each other all the time.
That's awesome and incredibly interesting. So we all know Major League Baseball is locked out right now. How does that change off-season routine, or does it for you? I mean, it's got to be a little bit different than a typical off-season. I'm just curious, like, your thoughts on what you're doing differently, or if that's going to affect anything going forward.
Yeah, so usually I'm in Florida, and it wouldn't have affected anything because I'd be going down to the local college at FGCU down there, and I've been working out. This year we actually bought a house in Arizona to be able to kind of use the facilities here. And then, of course, the lockout happens, and I'm not allowed to go into the facilities at all. So it's been a little bit of a scramble trying to find places to throw, mounds to get on. But yeah, I'm about 8 bullpens deep right now, getting ready for some live BPs next week, and then getting ready for the season as it's ready to start, hopefully on time. But yeah, it threw a little bit of a spanner in the mix, just in the fact of I was planning on using mounds and having our bullpen catchers being able to catch them, and then being in contact with our coaching staff and stuff like this. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. But yeah, hopefully we can get this all sorted out, and we can get back to all 30 teams being competitive and start the season on time.
What was it like to be involved in Game 3? I mean, we were there as fans, and it was so electric that we bought tickets to Game 4 in the 5th inning. Like, we were just having so much fun, and I'm like, we have to be here for the next game. Like, it doesn't even matter what the final outcome is. We love the White Sox. We love every player on that team. We have to be there. But you participated in that game, so I have to know what it was like to see it from your point of view, because we were like in the crowd screaming with everyone, drinking our beers, doing what we do. But you, as a player, I'm curious what it felt like from like down at the bottom.
Yeah, it's obviously nice to be in a game like that with the fans fully supporting behind you. I've been in some playoffs games before where it's been in the opposition city and it's been that loud the entire game, but obviously for the other team, which sucks a little bit. But yeah, it was fantastic from our point of view. Running out there to pitch that the 9th inning was fantastic. The kind of electricity around the stadium was it definitely rubbed off on some people. I mean, I think I got a little overboard at the end of the game, but at the end of the day, that's what you're looking for. That was one of the best experiences that not only I had, but also a lot of these younger guys can have moving forward. And the fact of like, this is what it feels like to win a playoff game. This is what it feels like to lose a playoff game and a playoff series. Now we never want to feel that again. Let's go do some more of the formal where we win those games. We are able to advance because we want to pop some bottles. We want to make sure we get those rings. We want to make sure that we do the city proud, and that's something that, especially on the south side, we need to make sure that we're the last club to win a ring down there.
Yeah, I was going to ask if that electricity in that stadium was contagious to you guys that night, because at least for Vinny and I and every other person wearing black in that stadium, as it was a blackout. From the moment that first pitch to the moment that you threw that last pitch, we were standing. I've never stood up, sat down so many different times in one game, and it had to be like, contagious for you guys.
Yeah, it was fantastic for us. Obviously, the way the game transpired, it was incredible the way it worked. It was fantastic to get that win in front of the home fans, especially with the way that the White Sox had in the previous year. It was a win in Game 1, but there was no fans in the stands, so it was a little bit of a different account. But yeah, it's always cool with that fan base. But the fans are great all year. It was as if they just showed up for the playoffs or anything like that. They were fantastic all year. We drew really well the entire season, which is fantastic because it's not there's not as many people just jumping on the bandwagon and running with you a little bit, which is always good. You want those loyal fans that come to the games, no matter if you're struggling a little bit or you're doing well, and that's something that the South Side has in spades.
Absolutely. So you just kind of touched on it a little bit earlier when you talked about being a closer and your mental preparations and stuff like that, and Tony LaRussa kind of being one of the primary inventors of the role. Can you take me through that thought process of being a closer? Because everybody says it doesn't matter if you're a closer; it's in your blood to pitch in the 9th inning and you high pressure situations. What is that like to be a closer mentally and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I'm very lucky in the fact of my timeline to move into that role. I don't think I would have been very good at it initially when I first moved to the bullpen, especially when I first went to the A's, because I was the expectation was there for me to move into those roles personally. Like maybe not organizationally or anything like that, but personally, I was expected to move into those roles, and I don't think my personality would have held on to it very well because I just don't think I would have been very good emotionally in that role, but. Since I got DFA'd in 2018 and went down there and kind of fell in love with the game again and realized that I don't care when I pitch. I don't care what role I am. I started bringing that intensity. I was throwing the 4th, 5th, 6th innings in Oakland and bringing the same intensity that I am now because that was the way I needed to pitch. And that it obviously got exacerbated now in the 9th inning with everything on the line a little bit more. But I don't think I would have been the same person I am without having those setbacks, without having those kind of go through the motions of making sure that I get into it. And then I worked so hard on psyching myself into every game, even if I didn't have the adrenaline, even if I didn't have the kind of the emotions that I needed to, I would psych myself into it that way. And now it's able to kind of transpire. And now I can bring that forth almost at will when I'm on the mound, which is something that is very hard to do. But my biggest thing is I don't care what inning I pitch. I don't care what role I am. I just want to pitch. I just want the ball as many times as I can. I want to go out there and help our team win, whether that be the fifth, whether that be the ninth, whatever role it is. I'll be ready to go no matter when the phone rings.
Yeah, and a time that we saw that this year where you didn't care, what game it was, what inning it was this year's All-Star game. It was so fun to watch, so fun for you to be a part of. You ended up getting the save. I want to know how special that moment was, and especially being the first Australian player to ever make an All-Star appearance twice. So congrats to you on that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, there was a lot of things really cool about that game. Unfortunately, I suffer from a little bit of altitude sickness, so that's not ideal, and we're in Colorado. But yeah, if you watch the inning, I ran out to the field with an oxygen tank in my back pocket. I kicked that into the dugout. I may have said some fun words a little couple times out there while being mic'd up, but it was an awesome experience. I think there was the American League only struck out 3 guys the entire game, and Lance and I happened to have 2 of them, and that was something that is pretty cool. That we got 2/3 of the strikeouts as 2 guys, which is something that doesn't happen too often. But yeah, being able to do that, walking the purple carpet, being able to experience that again with my wife, and run into players on the red carpet that we've played against, now that are either still playing or broadcasting or anything like this, that was something that's really, really cool. But I think the biggest thing for me is you gain recognition for the game in Australia, and that's something that I'm always pushing for, is trying to get more Aussie kids over here, more Australians involved in baseball, more Australians understanding what baseball is, to be honest, and doing things like that. They're the biggest things that help out a lot. And then I raised some money for an animal charity, which is always good.
Awesome stuff. Did you know you were mic'd up in that inning? Because there was some audio technical difficulties. You weren't able to hear Joe Buck, and I want to know about that.
So what had happened was I walked out to the bullpen in like the 3rd inning. I walked back in the 7th, and then got mic'd up, walked back out again to the bullpen, and then I sat down. There were these metal benches, and when you sit down, there's those gaps between where your back sits and where the butt is. And I sat down, and I felt like something. I felt like the microphone pack kind of wedge in between it. I'm like, oh crap, did I just break it? So I get up. I'm like, okay, I don't know. I can't hear anything. Maybe they're talking to me. Maybe they're not. I have no idea what's going on. So I'm like, okay, well, if they can't hear me, maybe I snapped the cord and it's not working, unfortunately, at all. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm mic'd up, maybe I'm not. I have no idea. I can't hear them, so I'm just going to go with it.
God damn, fucking finish it. Over the signs with Zunino. This is what the people want. You're mic'd up.
No, it's not working.
Oh, really?
I haven't heard a thing all
What do you want to do?
Chase 2, shake the sand.
Turns out they could hear me. I couldn't hear them. It turned out it was just the volume. They never turned the volume up on my end. They didn't tell me that I needed to. And so I'm just kind of running out there as is. But yeah, I could hear myself breathing, because, when you wear headphones, you can hear yourself breathing and chewing and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I could hear myself breathing. So that was tough because, one, altitude sickness, I'm out of breath because that was the heck of a long run in from the bullpen there. And so it was a lot of things going on, but luckily I had Zunino behind there, who I'd thrown to enough times when he was in Seattle just against, that he knew exactly what I was throwing at. So it worked well with the relationship.
Yeah, and you being mic'd up allowed me to hear after you struck out. You mentioned you and Lance had 2/3 of the strikeouts. Chris Taylor's up to bat. You get him on the drop third strike. What happened with that baseball? Because I saw you had someone authenticize it. You tossed it to the side. I don't know if you wanted someone to put a sticker on it. I want to know if do you still have that baseball? Is that something you're going to hang on to forever?
Oh yeah, I keep anytime I strike anybody out. So the first game, first time I made the All-Star, I ended up striking out the side. I got the first one, thought about getting the second one, and then by the time I got the third one, I was like, I can't keep that one because I didn't keep the second one. But I'm like, okay, I just want to and that's the plan. If I make another one, I want to hopefully strike somebody out and keep that ball again. But yeah, I'm a big collector. Like, there were certain times, like I kept my 100th strikeout ball of the season this year. I kept every single save ball. I kept a lot of balls where something cool happened. Like I kept the ball that I used in the game that Joe West, broke the umpire games record. And so I kept that ball. I got him to sign it for me. I like collecting those things, but I like to get him authenticated. So I got the strikeout in the All-Star game with Chris Taylor. Looked to the side. I'm like, no, I want the sticker. Yeah. Threw it in there. They got the sticker sitting in my locker after the game. And so I got the save ball authenticated as well. So they're sitting in my apartment in Chicago right now. And then they're with the rest of them. But the reason I keep all the balls is, one, because it's cool, because you never know I prefer to have something and then not ever use it or not ever need it or want it or anything like that than not have it and really want it. But Bert Blyleven had this wall in his house, and it was 287 wins. Every single win had a ball on the wall, and in between that was his 2 World Series trophies with the 2 rings in the middle, and it was a very, very cool setup. So I'm hoping that I can get to that with some saves and some World Series stuff. I started keeping wins when I was a starter, but they didn't come very often.
That's funny. I loved hearing that story. It's very interesting hearing like the human side of things. I love hearing like what you do with the baseballs and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. You brought up Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn and you, to me, have similar, I don't know, just when you get a big strikeout, you can tell you get very animated and you enjoy pitching and pumping out the fastballs as often as you can. I enjoy watching that. What was it like to pitch with Lance Lynn?
Lance is the same. Like I feel like he's very similar to me in the fact that he is very much loud and kind of boisterous on the mound, but off the mound he's funny, he's joking, he's having a good time, and that's something that I think we really related to. And we went up sharing a couple lockers. We had it was me, our 2 spare lockers, and then him, and so we would talk pretty much along a lot of the time. And being new to the team, kind of being that way, it was a lot of fun being able to learn from him, especially because he went the other way. He's a failed reliever, so he started as a reliever with the Cardinals and then moved to the rotation. So he's a failed reliever, and now he's doing what he does in there. But same thing as I did. I think the South Side really represents the way his personality is, and he melded into that team like butter. It was unbelievable. Like coming in, we were both very much embraced, and then the fans made it so much easier as well. It was fantastic an experience.
Yeah, and he started my favorite game of the season. We've talked about it. We've shown the highlights, and that's the Field of Dreams game. What was that whole experience like? Was that your first time ever at the Field of Dreams, or have you been there prior?
No, that was my first time ever there. So obviously the Field of Dreams stuff was fantastic. It was such a cool experience. There was so many things around. I've got a Kevin Costner signed ball at the house now from doing that, and everything was great. I had a fantastic time, and then I pitched, and then I sucked, and then made one of the more memorable moments being able to give TA the opportunity to walk off, and that was probably the game of the year from a lot of White Sox fans, and it happened to be my worst. It just is what it is. But yeah, it wasn't a great game for me personally, but at the end of the day, hey, we won, and that's all that matters, and then we can turn it around and use that as an experience personally and as a team, and it was a fantastic experience, obviously. Yeah, everyone saw the game. It was awesome. Like walking through the cornfields, doing the mazes, doing this and that, and yeah, it was fantastic. The field set, the playing surface was great. They did a really good job with that as well.
Liam, maybe it wasn't your best performance of the season, but you are the winning pitcher of the Field of Dreams game.
Yeah, I did say that. I actually sent the jersey to my agent because my agent was there as well. I got the jersey authenticated that I wore and sent it to him. Like, look, it's the jersey of the first guy to ever win a game in an MLB game in Iowa. So go ahead.
Everything happens for a reason. Honestly, you couldn't have written that script.
It humbled me a little bit, brought me back down to earth, and then we were able to kind of pick on some things that I was doing with my glove and the ball and everything like that, and then made the adjustment. Unfortunately, a couple games too late, but 6 earned runs in a couple games is not ideal. But after that, we were able to settle it back down again and move on from that and use that as a learning experience.
Yeah, and you weren't going up against nobody. Like you were facing some tough guys in that Yankees lineup. Is there a guy in the MLB that you face where you're just like you hate when they come up to bat? Or you not think about that stuff? You pitched against some Hall of Fame caliber players.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it a little bit. You think about it pregame and doing all that, but if you're on the mound, if you ever think about that, you've already lost. I can rattle off all the guys I do well against, but it's the guys that do well against you, it chops and changes. Obviously, Judge is one of those guys in that lineup that I've always struggled with. I think he's 3 for 4 with a strikeout, 2 homers, and an RBI single. So there's a lot in that he does all right against me. But in saying that, hopefully I'm lulling him to a false sense of security. So if there's a big inning in a playoff game or anything like that I can get him back a little bit. But there's some guys that you struggle against. But yeah, as soon as you get on the mound, you don't really worry about those guys because you're just out there and you're doing your thing. And sometimes guys have your number, and sometimes you do well against guys. It just happens to be that way.
What would it mean to you to throw the final pitch of a World Series game playing for the White Sox on the south side of Chicago?
It would mean a lot. Obviously, it would mean a lot. But at the end of the day, I don't care if I throw the last pitch, if someone else throws the last pitch, as long as someone on our team throws that last pitch. And that's the goal. It doesn't matter who it is on the mound. It doesn't matter what situation it is. I mean, I don't honestly care if whoever goes out there throws a CG or if it's another relief or if whatever it is. I don't care. I just want the ring. I want to win a ring. I want to win a championship. And that's what it comes down to. If that's me on the back end, that's great. If it's not, that's also great because as I said, I have no ego with what role I'm throwing, what inning I'm going out there, and all I'm trying to do is make it help the team win. And if that's including me in the ninth, that's what it is. But as I've always said, every spring training, I come into spring training being like, look, I'm a reliever on this team. I'm going to win that closers role, and that's my goal this spring training. Again, it's coming in, putting together a good spring training, and winning the role, and running with it the entire year, and never giving anybody any chance to say that I shouldn't have it.
Exactly. Very well said. I mean, obviously, we're hoping that championship does come here on the south side of Chicago. Over on the north side, we got the Chicago Cubs. What's that crosstown rivalry like? Is it what you expected coming to Chicago?
Yeah, obviously, being in the Bay Area, you have the Bay Series with the A's and the Giants. So it's similar to that in the fact of you've got that rivalry built in. You've got everything like that. It's been interesting because both teams I've been with, they haven't really stacked up at the right time. It hasn't been like the Cubs are on top of the Central and the White Sox are on top of the Central at the same time, or the A's are on top of the West and the Giants are on top of the West. It's been one team's going one direction, the other team's going the other. It was a cool experience because obviously this is my first time ever pitching at Wrigley this year. I've been to Wrigley before, but never pitched, and so that was my first experience pitching there, and it was a really cool experience being able to go against the Cubs as a White Sox and feeling that kind of adrenaline, feeling the excitement in the stadium, but. Yeah, I would hope that we both are trending in the right direction, trending upwards, and that I think would make it something special. But yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun going out there for those games, and it's bragging rights. Anytime you do anything against another team in the same city or the same surrounding areas, you're going out there for bragging rights. And I mean, I think I pitched, and I think it was 13-1, and I still ended up screaming and fist bumping after that game, no matter what. That's just how it goes, especially in those rivalry games.
And we love to see it because it's clear that you're passionate about winning. We enjoy watching you win. You've pitched to some very good catchers in your career, and I want to know what it's like to pitch to Yasmani Grandal. Of course, we see what he does with his bat. Everybody's well aware that he's got a lot of power and he can impact the game that way. But when you're pitching to him, what's it like with his pitch framing and the way he calls a game and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I love Tony S. Obviously, at the start of the year, he was hampered a little bit by his knee, but that's why he went down to the knee. That went down to one knee, and it was that kind of that transition period. But yeah, we had our conversations earlier in the year because he has one way of doing things, I have a different way of doing things, and at the end of the day, we got to the point where it's like we understood that this is the way we were going to try and do it. We're going to meld them together and try and work towards getting as many guys out as we can. And then he was fantastic. Once he came back from his knee injury, it was like he just melded straight back into it. Like there were certain times where I'd want something and he'd put something else down and then adamantly put it down again, and then we'd go to that and it would work. And there'd be other times where I'd shake him off and move to something else and it would work as well. It was just it was a really good relationship, not only on the field while pitching to him, but also in the clubhouse. He was one of those guys. He's a little bit quieter. He's a little bit more kind of stands in the background a little bit more, but being able to kind of joke around with him a little bit, and he puts so many hours into to looking at what he's doing behind the plate, but looking at the next series, the next game, the next team, the next batter. It's unbelievable the amount of work he puts in. I think his scouting reports are more in depth than almost any pitches I've ever seen. And it's a tribute to what he's able to do. But I'm excited about getting him back with his knees back right and moving forward into this next season and really getting an opportunity to sit there with him for the entire year, because as you said, his bat was fantastic, but he was also one of the better defensive catches for the last 6 years or so. And that's something that you don't find those two mixing together very often.
Yeah, and I like how you said you get along with him in the clubhouse. Off the ice, you joke around with him. Is there like a guy in the clubhouse who you love to joke around with? Who's the jokester in that clubhouse? Is there someone that comes to mind right away?
Yeah, I probably mess with TA the most. I think we sat there and we were going in spring training for about 4 hours one day. And it was just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Our lockers were next to each other in spring training. And then, it got to the point where Adam Eaton had to actually get up, move, and then leave because we were just going back and forth for too long. And this is like 6 o'clock in the morning, mind you. So it's not as if it's like later in the afternoon or anything like that. Everyone's tired already. But yeah, we were going back and forth the entire. He's probably the one guy. Like we have conversations in the middle of the game because I told him like, hey, look, if you see anything, come let me know. Come yell at me a little bit, and then we'll go. And then he goes, same thing for him. Like if we'll just go back and forth on the field, whatever situation is, because that's what we found that works for us to get us locked back in. We don't need someone stressing about the importance of each one. We need everyone downplaying the importance of everything, so that way we go out there and do our thing.
Yeah, and I don't know if I said off the ice or off the field, but
oh, you definitely said off the ice, but it's fine. I understand.
You see where my brain's at most of the time, right?
That's funny. So
yeah, I'm trying to
Liam,
avoid as much hockey talk as I can because Montreal's floundering a little bit this year. It's not the best year for us, especially after last year making the Stanley Cup Finals.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have you roast Joey about the Canadians in a couple minutes here, but we brought up Wrigley Field, and you talked about pitching there for the first time. What is your favorite away ballpark that you've ever pitched in? I mean, and you've pitched at pretty much every stadium that you've been on their team as a road player as well. But I'm curious, is there a stadium that you just love going to?
There's a lot of stadiums I really enjoy pitching at. Obviously, I think I love the Coliseum, but that's a pitcher's ballpark. It's got a great mound. It's a high mound. The way everything comes in, that's one of my favorite places to pitch. As a player going in, I'm looking for the clubhouse experience, but the new Texas ballpark's fantastic. I think Carson and the guys over there with Matt and Newman, they do a fantastic job in the clubhouse. They treat everybody the right way, and that's something that's really cool. Obviously, New York's fantastic with Lou and the staff over there, but yeah, from a playing surface point of view, I actually really enjoy Tampa. I think it's the mound. They if you look at anybody's analytics of that when they're in Tampa, their analytics go through the roof. I think I averaged probably 6'11" to 7'1" last year. My release extension in Tampa, I was 7'4". My drop went from 10 inches to 4 inches. Everything I had played up to a ridiculously elite level, and that was something that was really cool. But that's just I judge everything based by mounds and everything like that. But there's some good mounds out there. There's some not so great mounds out there, but it's learning to pitch, and you just don't want to pitch after Giolito because he digs a hole. It's like he took a shovel out there, and it's coming in the ninth inning. It's hard when you got to combat everybody's hole sizes and stride lengths and everything like this. You're just kind of dodging landmines out there.
That's honestly.
It's something I've never even thought of, coming in after a guy. And obviously each starter is going to, go about their mound differently. And that's so funny to hear that Lucas Giolito does that.
Yeah, if I ever have to pitch after Lucas Giolito versus Frankie Montas, I may actually get them to just recreate the mound because those two guys dig like no other. It works for them. Don't get me wrong. I'm not telling them to stop doing what they're doing, but yeah, it makes it tough. I've torn through some cleats before because I'm scraping the top of my toes because of the where I'm landing and all this sort of stuff. It's an interesting time.
That's hilarious. And each guy has his own thing that makes him successful on the mound. Of course, Giolito with the digging. We know about Craig Kimbrell, the way he kind of hunches over and leaves his arm hanging over. You kind of dangle your arm a little bit, not quite as a wing as Craig Kimbrell does, but I'm curious, where did that develop? How do you come up with something like that? Where does it stem from in terms of your development as a pitcher or maybe becoming a reliever and just going from the stretch specifically? I'm curious how that develops.
Yeah, so I had started from the stretch when I was a starter that I would go from my hand kind of behind my back on the belt level around there. And then when I was in Double-A, I ended up having some shoulder issues that I was pitching through. So I was I'm not telling anybody. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. But it actually hurt to put my arm behind my back. And at that point, I'm okay, well, what do? I'll just dangle it. And it kind of just stuck from there. And now it just became a thing. And now I'm getting a little bit lower because it looks a little bit more intimidating and all that sort of stuff. It's not quite the pinched wing because I feel like that would hurt my shoulder as well. But yeah, it's now part and parcel of the way I do it because I think that you always feel way more of a badass when you kind of look up and it's just the brim of your hat is just sitting there and you can see the plate and the sign if you don't see anything else. I feel like it's just it's a bit of a cool vibe, but now it's just a habit that I get into, and it actually I don't think I could stop it. I think it's now more of it's that ingrained in me that if I ever did anything else, it would just feel weird.
Yeah, it's probably just part of that routine at this point.
Plus, I need to lean forward to be able to see because I got terrible eyesight. So I can't just stand up with my glove on my hip and be able to see the signs. I literally need to get as close to the plate as I can to be able to figure out what the guy's putting down.
Yeah. There's been tons of great moments this year for us as fans, for I'm sure U.S. players. Is there a moment that doesn't really get talked about as much, maybe an underrated moment from this season?
It's an interesting one. I think there's a lot of interesting ones games we played, whether it be just kind of comeback wins or I think the biggest one, it's not maybe not necessarily a certain game, but it was the way we handled certain teams. Like we did well against teams in our own division. That was something that is really, really hard to do, but it was also we figured out like, okay, we went to a road team, like Houston swept us at their place, and then they came back to our place, and we were able to kind of flip the script a little bit. Or the way when the Blue Jays came to us, we were able to kind of show our side on our home turf kind of thing. I think that was the one thing that I think it gets talked about a lot. But our biggest thing was like the Twins weren't their record may have been bad, but they weren't a bad team. A lot of those games were very close games. And I think that gets left out a little bit in the fact that they were very close games. We had a lot of close games that we won that, I mean, how many games were within 1 or 2 runs or anything like that all of a sudden we weren't expected to win, or we came from behind, or we didn't score enough, or just scored enough to be able to win these games. And if you don't win those, then all of a sudden we're looking at being in 4th place in the division and not being able to do what we wanted to do in the playoffs. And that's something that I think it's how close the division race wasn't exactly as close as a lot of things looked, but those individual games, they were really close, and there was a lot of make or break moments in this season that we were able to kind of take advantage of.
And you guys did play well against your division rivals, and that was one of the biggest critiques of the Chicago White Sox from, I would say, the national media in the year 2021 was that the AL Central's weak. The White Sox are going to be the only team that finish above 500. Cleveland sold off some of their better players at the deadline. The Twins were one of the biggest disappointments in all of baseball this season. Why does that matter? Isn't winning your division the point of baseball? And then once you get into the playoffs, then you have to elevate your game from there. I thought the White Sox did a great job this season handling their division, and I see that as very important.
Yeah, without it, I don't think from a player's point of view, it doesn't matter who you beat. It doesn't matter who you beat as long as you win. And if you're going to win the division, you may, like whether you beat up on your own team within a weaker division, whether you beat up everybody else. I think one thing that was pointed upon was the fact that our record against teams above 500 wasn't ideal. But in saying that, who cares? It doesn't really matter. Like, unfortunately, it would have been a better argument if we had advanced in the playoffs a little bit. But in saying that, it doesn't matter who you win as long as you get there. I mean, it's you play 162 games to get ready for those series, and that's what it is. It's 162 practice games to get ready for the playoffs. And it doesn't matter who you play against, doesn't matter what you do, as long as you get to the playoffs. And that's the biggest thing that there is. It's like you could be really good against 500 teams, but struggling against that one team, and that one team's going to cost you a playoff spot. So our big thing now is obviously moving forward. We want to be able to show our best foot against those 500 teams, not only to stop the media talking about it all, but also to give ourselves that confidence when we go to the playoffs. Like, okay, yeah, it doesn't matter. We were able to beat this team at their home ground, and that's one of the things that we really need to work on is playing better on the road this year. And that's something that hopefully we can work on come spring training and take into the season and run away with it.
I was just going to say, so obviously that's something to look forward to this next upcoming season is that road record and those teams above 500. But I agree, it's not something to necessarily stress too much about because you guys at the end of the day were a winning team, and all that matters at the end of the day is you make it to the playoffs and then you go from there.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter how you get there as long as you get there.
Yeah.
So when you guys are on the road, obviously there's time to kill, plane rides, hotels. What's your favorite thing to do on the road for fun?
So if we've got an off day or a day game or anything like that, I always take the bullpen after dinner. That's one of the things that it says when you move up the ranks is you get the older guy or the guy with the biggest salary or anything like that. You take all the young guys out to dinner. So that was one thing that I really enjoyed doing. This is my first year, like being able to do it because 2020 you couldn't really do it because of everything going on. But yeah, taking the guys out for dinner, taking them out for a nice steak or wherever we're going. And just sitting around and just hanging out, like whether it just be something like we hang out all the time, but hanging out away from the field, it's a little bit rarer. But other than that, like I'll sit I'll be in the hotel room. I'll just watch TV or read a book or walk around the city a little bit, depending on where we are. It's something that you get out, you enjoy, you experience the things. And yeah, I'm always looking for like a good bookshop or anything like that in certain cities where I can go and try and find that next good read that I'm going to sit down and read on the road, especially.
Yeah, Vin, do you have any more baseball questions? Because there's one topic I'm dying to get into here.
No, I'm very happy to have Liam on the show, of course, talking baseball. But yeah, of course, we got to jump into the one nerdy thing we wanted to talk to him about real bad.
Yeah, and of course that is Vinny and I are huge Star Wars fans. We know you're a huge Star Wars fan, and we know you're a huge Lego fan. I want to hear about that. Go ahead and nerd out for a second here. Tell us about your collection you got, because we're so interested in it.
Yeah, so my Lego thing all started this year from one of our friends, Joseph Niz, but he actually bought me this the Chicago skyline, and bought me the skyline. So I built that in the clubhouse. I'd always built little figurines, but it's more Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon style. And then when he bought the Legos, I'm like, oh, okay, let me see what else they've got. And then I got Grogu. Then I got the I've now got the Millennium Falcon and the Starship Destroyer, the AT-AT. I've got all those. I haven't built the big ones yet because there's just too much of it going on. But then I did the busts, and it was Boba Fett. Then it was Darth Vader. Then it was the TIE Fighter. Then it was there was the Starship Trooper, the Scout Trooper, or the Star Trooper. Then there was the Scout Trooper. There was all these different little busts and stuff like that they were able to build, and a lot of it was Star Wars, which is really kind of cool because it's like, yeah, I grew up on that stuff. You go that every time, like we go back, that's like to Australia. It's like there was usually a Star Wars movie coming out, so we get the nice tickets with the cushioned seats, when they'd bring the food out, and I take my old man to that because that was something that we kind of bonded over as when I was a little younger, and that's something that now with the Mandalorian and the series of Boba Fett coming out and all these sorts of things, it's like it never ends, which is fantastic for me, but. Yeah, it's always enjoyable watching that. We had Rogue One on the other night, watching that, just kind of get back into a little bit. And then you look at the video games, The Force Awakens, that was fantastic, the one that came out a few years ago. And yeah, there's so much that goes into that genre that you're able to kind of go through. And I mean, it's something really, really cool that you're able to kind of, especially with Lego and all that stuff they're doing now within the realm. It's exciting to be able to relive those special things that you grew up with.
Liam, are you a gamer?
Little bit, not too much. I mean, I try and dabble a little bit, but yeah, that's sometimes a road thing. But yeah, it's I try and read as many books as I can. I've got set myself a goal this year of a book a week, so right around 50 books. That's what we're aiming for. And that so currently I'm on to book 3. So we'll see how it goes. See if I can keep that going, because once the season starts, that's all I do on the plane. All I do is read. In the clubhouse on the road, I read a book is my way to kind of wind down and get away from baseball for a little bit as well.
That's awesome. What's your favorite Star Wars movie?
I'm a sucker for the OGs. I think it's just the original trilogy is something I don't know if I could really pick a favorite. I think it's just one of those ones where it's like you go back and you see some of the graphics nowadays, but it was so ingenious back then, of the way it was done, the way it was like created. Then you're watching my wife and I watching the how the movie was made kind of thing on Netflix, and we didn't watch the Star, like there wasn't a Star Wars one, but it was like the Jurassic Park one and the Home Alone ones, and it was just all these little things about the way it was constructed and the difficulties and this and that. I can only imagine how doing a Star Wars film back in those days was hard to do, whether it was just like you're literally holding onto a ship by a string and just dragging him around kind of thing to make it look like it's moving and all these things. It's fascinating. It's the way that guys talk about their professions, and there's little tweaks and stuff like that. It's the way I talk about baseball. It's like, okay, yeah, my hand was a little bit on the side of that ball, so I didn't get the same amount of carry, or I put too much pressure on my pointer finger rather than my index finger, so my slider didn't break as much. And it's fascinating learning all those little tidbits about any kind of profession. Those little things that mean when you're watching it on TV, it realizes that you actually can't do it yourself.
Yeah, you mentioned that show, the Mandalorian, Book of Boba. Have you started the Book of Boba Fett, that TV show on Disney Plus?
No, so we've been watching The Mandalorian. I try and watch all this stuff with my wife because it's something that we both like a little. We both like, so it's like being able to watch The Mandalorian with her. I don't want to start the Boba Fett until I finish The Mandalorian, just in case there is any crossover. I don't know if there is or not, and then I want to wait till we're able to watch that together as well, or else it will be something. If she lets me know that she doesn't want to watch it, then I'll probably finish it in one night while I'm on the road somewhere while waiting for dinner or something like that to show up.
Okay, that's awesome. I love hearing that. I got to ask one more baseball question, then we could get back to the nerdy thing. I thought of something that I really wanted to ask you. Is it true that closers arrive to the baseball game later than everybody else? Like, are you getting there in the 4th, 5th inning?
To the field?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm there before everybody else.
Okay.
So most people so we may walk out to the game a little bit later.
Sure. Okay.
But yeah, so like I'm still getting to the field. It's like this year we weren't allowed there before a certain time, so I'd get there as soon as we were allowed to. I'd be in there, I'd go into the training room, I'd do my stuff, and then I'd go out and play catch and do my normal routine of that. And then I'd get back inside and then I'd eat and play with my Lego at home, and then I'd probably jump in the hot tub, the cold tub, the shower, and all that sort of stuff. And then as I was going out to the field, I'd probably leave. I like to get there in the third, fourth inning, and then that's usually the time I walk out. But no, everyone pretty much gets there at the same time because we still have stretch at the same time. It's not as if it's we've all been pushing back. We still have it's not really necessarily organized, but you as pitchers you stretch either before BP or before BP at home for sure. And then depending on how it goes on the road, before the visitors or the home team's BP, or after that, depending on just how you're feeling that day or anything like that's going on. But pretty much everyone gets to the field at the same time. Maybe back in the day when it was a little less organized, but not anymore.
Yeah,
Sure.
and Vinny actually made me think of another baseball question about your preparation. You know, especially being a pitcher, you know how you do work, you know, preparing to throw in a game. But when was the last time you've taken batting practice or swung a bat? Do you ever take batting practice?
No, they wouldn't let me this year. I kept asking to. They said no. That's why I'm like, I just want one hit, and then I can retire and never talk about it again. But I just want to take I just want one hit during a game, and then keep that ball, put it on the mantle, and that's about it. But as a kind of shorter leash reliever, you don't often get that opportunity, unfortunately. But I got a chance to run.
Yeah, well, we all remember that game. that game stirred up a little bit of fun in the White Sox world. But you saw Dylan Cease; he had a couple big hits this season. I mean, I'm sure that's something that all pitchers really just want to try at least once and see if they could get a hit.
Yeah, he was bringing up his old high school scouting report, saying he was like the second best shortstop in all of Georgia and all this sort of stuff. But it didn't help that then he went 3 for 3 in Cincinnati and then just didn't shut up about it. But it humbled himself a little bit later on when he got a chance to hit again and didn't do as well. So it saved us all that second game.
So that just shows what incredible work, you know, a guy like Shohei Otani is able to do. Who was that your first time meeting him at the All-Star game, or did you have a chance to ever sit down and talk with him before that?
I never had a chance to sit down, but you'd run into him in the outfield. You'd always say hello, and then I'd start talking to his translator a little bit because they've been around with a multitude of different players around before Shohei and stuff like that. But no, he's awesome. Like, he always takes the time. He's such a humble human being, and that's fantastic for the game, what he's able to do. And now it makes every reliever or pitcher or anything like that has ever thought that they could do it really jealous of the fact that they were never given the same opportunities. But he's a freak athlete because not only does he have power, does he have velocity, does he have all this, but he's got speed as well, which is usually the thing that the pitchers don't have. They generally have some things. They have the ability to hit for power, but never the average or the speed. And those are usually the two defining factors that max some people out.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, it's that time of the show where we address the elephant in the room. Joey is a diehard Boston Bruins fan. We're from Chicago, and we're Chicago fans. We're diehard White Sox fans. But in hockey, Joey's a diehard Bruins fan. And we all know about your love for the Montreal Canadiens. How did that start? Why are you a Canadiens fan? And talk about your love for the team.
Yeah, so my wife grew up a little bit in Quebec City. And so when she was a figure skater. So when she was growing up, we tried to get into hockey because of where we were with where I was in Fort Myers. They had the Florida Everblades, and so she was trying to get me into hockey. And then so it was like one of those things. Like, okay, well, if you're going to support hockey, you need a team to barrack for. So Montreal is the team that I go for. So that's the team you should go for. It's the worst mistake she's ever done. So now all I do is I watch Montreal. I watch the games. I have jerseys. I have a Snuggie in the closet. We actually went to the Winter Classic when it was at Gillette Stadium between Boston and Montreal. That was something that it's something that I follow pretty religiously now, and that's it's something really cool. Obviously, last year was a great year for us, being able to the shortened season, being able to the All North League, but we weren't able to pull off the championship win, but. It was something that really cool to follow along, and then this year hasn't gone quite to plan. But in saying that, it happens, and it doesn't change my love for the team or anything, or the organization or anything like that. It's still, I'm still going to support them no matter what, even if they're struggling, and just hopefully they can turn it around. Hopefully coming up.
Yeah, and a great game tonight on TNT. I don't know if you plan on tuning in, but they are playing my Boston Bruins
I
over
saw
in
that.
Boston.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. How did you become a Boston fan?
So I actually got into hockey, around 2012. I don't even, how old was I? A sophomore in high school.
Yeah, probably like
we went to a hockey game, and the Blackhawks were playing the Dallas Stars at the time, and a fight broke out. And I'm very new to hockey. I wasn't a huge hockey fan. And, I fell in love with the game. A huge fight breaks out at a hockey game. What's going on? So I get home.
Nobody gets in trouble for it. Like in
nobody
baseball.
gets in trouble. Yeah. So I went home, started watching a bunch of videos on hockey fights, and that, naturally led me to the big bad Boston Bruins at the time, who were fighting all the time, and fell in love with Tim Thomas, the goalie at the time. Now Tuukka Rask is my favorite player, and just the rest is history. I haven't missed a game in, almost a decade now. So Boston Bruins were my
favorite. They just re-signed Tuukka as well.
Yeah.
And Blackhawks games weren't on television in Chicago for a long time, until like 2008. So most of our childhood, all you could watch if you were a sports fan were the Cubs and White Sox, Bears, and Bulls. The Hawks were on road games. Their road games were on, but it was very hard to get into a team that you couldn't watch. So me and Joey both became fans of teams that were out of market because there was no reason to root for the Blackhawks. But the Habs are in town tomorrow. I'm probably going to go watch them.
Yeah, now, Vinny, who are you a fan of? Who do you barrack for?
I root for the New Jersey Devils.
Okay, so that was the first team. That was the first game I actually went to. The first couple games that we went to were actually the Devils. It was first game we went to was Devils Capitals in DC, and then we went to another game. I can't remember who it was. It was the Devils versus somebody again, and it was Devils Sabres. It was when I was playing in Buffalo, and they both went to OT, both of the games. It was fantastic. But yeah, the fighting is enjoyable. I enjoy that. I think they should add that into baseball. If I hit somebody, they can charge me, and the third man in gets a suspension. But let us go at it, and then we'll see how it goes. But I think that'll be something we can do.
You'd be willing to throw the glove down?
I love watching it, and hopefully we get a chance to. The Montreal they're able to scrape back from some dignity this year, and then all they can hopefully get a nice little draft pick, and we can start planning for the future.
Absolutely. I think Joey was about to ask. You'd be willing to drop the mitts if that were allowed in baseball?
100%. I mean, I'm going to lose because I suck at fighting, but
sure.
I think it'll be enjoyable as heck because I think that's the one thing that baseball is trending in the right direction with is more emotion, less stoicism, and kind of you're able to go out there. You're allowed to be a person now rather than be like the epitome of like the one word answers or the cliched answers or anything like that. You can go out there, you can be yourself, you can enjoy it, and you can kind of show your personality off a little bit, which is, I think, fantastic for the game. And that's what's going to get the younger guys involved and the younger fans coming to the games and doing all this is having someone who shows emotion, who's able to kind of connect with guys on a basic level by showing their interests, whether it be with Lego or books or movies or video games or whatever it is, and you can move forward with that.
When you're in the bullpen, let's say you make it out to the bullpen by a certain time in the game, and something happens where you guys got to all run out there. You're like, oh, here we go again. I got to go run out when the bench is clear here. I got to go run out there and do nothing. By the time we get out there, the fight's basically broken up anyway. Or do you like it? Do you run out there and I'm like, I'm going to go?
Oh, I've already told our bullpen, you cannot let me beat you because I'm older than all you guys. So you need to be able to beat me out there. But the couple of times we had bench clearings this year, I was warming up. So I was warming up in Detroit, and then I was warming up at home. And I was warming up, so I actually jumped the fence and then got stern talking to by both our pitching coach, our manager, our GM, our bullpen coach, because it's like, look, stop jumping over the fence and landing. That way we don't want this. We don't want you to get hurt doing this. But yeah, I jumped over the fence, ran in, made sure to beat everybody. And Detroit's a long way in. So I had to run all the way into Detroit, walk all the way back out, and then I pitched that game. And I was like warming up to throw the ninth inning. So not only that, I'm also now coming into pitch where I have to run again because it's the fence, the door there is 420 feet away from home plate. And so I'm running in 300 feet, which is it's a long way while having to do that, like run in within 2 minutes and then warm up and then not run out of time because most umpires don't care, especially in like Detroit or Philadelphia or Colorado or Baltimore or anything like that. But some umpires are a little sticklers for those clocks, and it gets a little frustrating sometimes.
That's awesome. Well, Joe, do you have anything for Liam before we let him get on out of here?
Has anyone ever said anything to you about the amount of times when you get a ball back from the catcher, you just catch it with your bare hand? Does that ever come up or?
Yeah, Moncada doesn't like throwing me the baseball anymore. He doesn't like giving it to me with anything because he's afraid that because I tell him like, hey, throw it hard. He's like, no, you'll catch it barehanded. I'm not getting in trouble for this. So both Abreu and him have been like giving me the ball back, and it's usually when I'm mad about something, or whether it be a pitch, whether it be a hit, or whatever it is. But yeah, nowadays I just tell them the harder you throw it, it means that I'm going to use my glove. So we're slowly working on that.
That's hilarious.
I grew up playing cricket. It's fine.
That's honestly so funny. Well, Liam, we can't thank you enough for coming on our show. It's been an absolute blast. I know our fans are absolutely going to love it.
Oh, appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the not all baseball questions. It's always fun as well.
Yeah, of course. We love baseball, but we also love talking about things that aren't baseball as well. That's half of our show is talking pop culture or just, talking about whatever comes on our mind that day.
Yeah, with that, you get a chance to show off guys' personalities, show the fact that we're not all robots playing a game that everyone thinks that they could play as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we know. We played and we sucked by the time we were 18. That's why we didn't make it to the show, and that's why we talk about you guys instead, because it fell off quickly after a couple of good years of high school.
Yeah, over in foul territory in left field in the concourse, they got that pitch speed thing. I'm still trying to break 74. So honestly, I don't know how you guys.
I kind of want to try it. I want to see what it shows up. If obviously it's not going to be anywhere near what I throw in a game, but it'd be interesting to go up there one time and just to see how it goes. I'll have to get them to set it up like during batting practice one time. We'll go up there and see what we can get.
Yeah, for sure.
And you could see if the guy running it knows who you are and charges you $5 like they charge the rest of us.
It may very well do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Liam, thank you so much. We can't thank you enough.
Yeah, and we look forward to seeing you. Like I said, Vinny and I are those crazy fans over in left field by the bullpen. We hope we're not distracting you too much as you're getting ready to go in the game.
As long as you don't distract me while I'm doing my little walk through, it's
yeah. Oh, trust me, I'm just watching. I'm watching you. I'm not even watching the game at some points. It's honestly the most intriguing thing to me. So keep it up, man. We look forward to seeing you.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me. All right?
Absolutely. Of course. Have a good night.
Take it easy, guys.
And that was Liam Hendriks of the Chicago White Sox, the best closer in Major League Baseball, in my opinion. What did you think?
What a guy. Honestly, that was the quickest hour talking to somebody that I've ever been a part of. We could have talked all night long. He just seemed like such a fun guy. We talked about Star Wars. We talked about my Boston Bruins, who I just can't seem to mention enough, it seems, over on our Wednesday show. And the fact that he was the first one to bring up the Boston Bruins, that meant a lot to me. Like Liam Hendriks, closer for the Chicago White Sox, one of the best pitchers, in baseball, talked about my Bruins hat. That was just a highlight for me.
I loved every minute of it. We can't thank him enough for coming on. It means a lot to us as White Sox fans. We've had plenty of awesome guests on this show talking about Pitching Ninja and Gavin Sheets and David Kaplan, just some great people to talk baseball with. Liam Hendriks has to be the highlight.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's honestly gonna be tough to beat. We can beat it. The sky is the limit for us on this show and on the Barroom Network.
Trying to do better.
Definitely the career highlight for us up to this point. And it's actually funny you mentioned Pitching Ninja, because literally yesterday, Pitching Ninja posts a highlight of Liam Hendriks. Like, what are the odds of that? So it
was the 1 year anniversary of Liam Hendriks signing with the Chicago White Sox yesterday. Talking about 2 days ago, actually. So it's a lot of fun to have this guy on the team. He clearly is passionate about pitching for the White Sox and being a closer and being the best player that he can be. And it also seems like he's very interested in advancing his brain. And I'm all about that. I like being smart and being around people smarter than me. It's something I enjoy reading and all that kind of stuff. So to hear somebody like Liam Hendriks go through and explain his methods on those kinds of things, incredibly interesting. And I know there was one part of the Liam Hendriks interview that you found incredibly interesting. Talk a little bit about what you thought of him breaking down his breathing techniques.
Yeah, because there were so many times I told him this. There were so many times in the game where 7th inning, 8th inning, whatever situation he's coming into, I'm not even watching the game. I'm over, my head is to the left. I'm looking at the bullpen, watching Liam Hendriks literally stand on home plate. I obviously didn't realize, he's doing some breathing exercise. And then he just walks to home plate, stands on home plate, face the mound, does some more breathing stuff, and then he walks back and he just stands there. And it's honestly very interesting to watch. So I was so happy that he actually had an explanation behind that. That was not the answer I was looking for, but I'm so glad I got it. So now I'll know every time I watch him, like I will be this upcoming season. I'll be sitting there watching him just like I was 20 times this year. I'll have a reason behind it, and I'll be able to pass that knowledge along to anyone else who's wondering about Liam Hendriks' routine.
Absolutely. And to kind of break away from that for a second, we got to mention really quick before we head on out of here. Jon Lester retired. He's an all-time great pitcher, in my opinion, one of the great winners in Major League Baseball history. He helped two historic franchises like the Boston Red Sox and Chicago Cubs end World Series droughts, and he was just an absolute pro everywhere he went. He helped the St. Louis Cardinals go on a magnificent run at the end of this season, was a big part of that, and just everywhere he went, winning followed, and I loved being a Jon Lester fan for his entire career.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, those highlights in Boston, you know, pitching with David Ross, the catcher, who eventually was his manager over in Chicago. It honestly, what a fantastic career. I love Jon Lester. He was by far my favorite Cub. So, you know, a phenomenal career to him.
Absolutely. And, of course, the last time Jon Lester ever faced the White Sox absolutely teed off on him. So that's great. And then, of course, the last home run that the White Sox ever hit off of Jon Lester, or no, I'm saying it wrong. The last home run that the White Sox ever hit that Hawk Harrelson called was a Tim Anderson bomb off of Jon Lester. So thank you, John, for all the great memories. And it was a pleasure to have you in town.
Yeah. And, you know, maybe we'll have him on this show one day to talk, you know, retired baseball. How's the retired life? But you never know. You know.
Absolutely. And I promise I won't bring up to him the White Sox teeing off on him if he ever came on our show. So that's my promise to you, John. And thank you so much for giving us just a pleasure of a pitcher to watch over the years.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
So for another great episode of Crosstown Crosstalk, I can't thank Liam Hendriks enough. It was a great show. Joe, thank you for coming on as well. It was great to interview him with you. There's nobody on planet Earth I'd rather interview a Chicago White Sox superstar with than you. So thank you so much for helping me do that and taking care of half the questions for me. And of course, if you're following us on Twitter, follow at Joey Parise on Twitter. Follow at Vinnie _Parise on Twitter. Thank you for listening.